Hi everyone. Hi. So thank you for joining us today on the 13th anniversary of Michael's death. A horrendous time, especially in recent light, with the LGBT attacks. So today, gathering here to remember Michael, and to have a few words from a few important members of our community. So first, I'd like to introduce Chris Porter from YPAS and Gyro. So delighted to have Chris here. Gyro, an incredible, important part of the community and a great voice for our youth, LGBTQI+ youth. So Chris.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. So thanks for having me everyone, and thanks for everyone for coming also. As Ryan was saying there, it's been a tough few months for everyone, and I feel like it's been especially a tough few months, maybe 18 months for LGBT+ youth, which is the kind of main demographic that I work with. So for people who don't know, YPAS is a mental health and wellbeing charity for children, young people and families, and I work on Gyro and lead on Gyro, which is our LGBT+ provision, which is a combination of group work and one-to-one support. So if you know any young people in Liverpool who might be exploring their gender identity or sexual orientation, do get in touch, because one of our main objectives is to make sure that people don't feel alone and isolated. And with all the things that have happened recently, and reflecting on, of course, on Michael's life, I think it's really important that people don't feel alone with their thoughts and with all the heavy stuff that's gone on as well. So I suppose I've just been reflecting on some of the kind of negative things, and I wanted to also talk about some of the positive things I think that I feel have happened recently. And some of those have also been led by LGBT+ youth in Liverpool, which is unbelievable to see and really warms my heart and the work that we do as well. So in light of some of the hate crimes that have happened, not only have community organisations come together and local activists and a lot of experienced adults as well in our community, but a lot of young people got together as well and decided that they wanted to show the world and also definitely have a voice for Liverpool, that there's no place for hate in this city. And some of you, or hopefully most of you, will be aware that they organised a protest. So I suppose one thing that I've wanted to make clear now I've got the microphone is that I didn't organise a protest. People keep saying to me, do you organise a protest, Chris? And I would never organise a protest, unofficially anyway. So this was all done by young people, for young people, and the turnout was unbelievable. And because of the likes of that, people started to feel like their community was back again. A lot of us feel like we've lost community recently, and we have literally lost community recently as well, both physically and interpersonally. So I suppose I just wanted to kind of raise the platform for LGBT+ youth, young people, coming together to challenge hate crime and doing their bit, and to say that there is hope out there for us all, and a lot of that hope will come from the next generations. Every generation says it, but the next generation coming along has really got some clout behind it, and they know their stuff. So with that in mind, I'd just like to hand over to our next guest and hand back to Ryan. Thanks very much.
Thank you for that, Chris. So next speaker we have Chief Constable Serena Kennedy. So she's been in the job for a little while already, and very pleased that she's able to join us here today. Your work can be invaluable for our community, especially for our city. So over to you.
I like the little while. I'm counting in months now, not weeks. So yeah, 3 months in. So evening, really privileged to be attending this vigil in Michael's memory. It's nice to actually be here in the sunshine. Last year I was watching online when the technology at home kept failing. And I think we were in the rain 2 years ago when we were here. So Michael's murder was investigated by police as a homophobic hate crime 13 years ago. And as you know, he was just 18 at the time of his death. Following Michael's murder, the police engaged really closely with communities to share information, dispel myths, and to reiterate our absolute commitment to finding Michael's killers. I really believe, and I can see on a weekly basis, a daily basis, certainly in recent months, that Michael's death and our community's response has shaped the way in which we work with partners, communities and allies. Many of the relationships that we enjoy today were forged in the days and weeks and years following Michael's murder, which is hugely positive. The city has changed greatly since 2008, and we now have a pedestrianised gay quarter in the city centre. We enjoy our annual Pride Festival, even though it's been online for 2 years, and police and partners support many of the LGBT plus events held across the city. But as Chris has mentioned, and you all know, hate crime, however, is unfortunately still prevalent in our society today. You are well aware of the recent hate-related crimes against the LGBT plus community, who were targeted simply for being themselves. And you know only too well the impact that this has on people's lives and the subsequent fear that this generates. The theme for Pride this year is From Now On, which calls on us as individuals, businesses, organisations, partners, communities and allies to enact the change from now on. As Chief Constable, I have very clear priorities to protect the vulnerable and to ensure that we continue to develop a culture that values diversity and inclusion. As part of Pride and as an ally, I've been asked to make a pledge to support the LGBT plus community from now on. My pledge is threefold. I will continue to make Merseyside Police an employer of choice, ensuring that we are able to demonstrate that we are supportive, welcoming and an accepting place to work. I will continue to celebrate and recognise pride and the diversity of our colleagues and communities, and I will support an LGBT plus inclusive education in force to raise awareness of the gender spectrum and encourage open and honest education to educate our workforce, but also to support our LGBT plus staff and communities. Together, we will continue to make great strides to become a police force that reflects the communities that we serve. We will work with our partners and our LGBT plus communities to ensure that our city remains a safe space for all, something we're all incredibly proud of, so that everyone can feel free to be themselves, regardless of sexual orientation. And we will not let fear and discrimination become the norm. Some months ago, I attended the Michael Korser Foundation daisy planting event at St Nicholas's Church, and I have some in my own garden. I think they're faring quite similar to the ones in St Nick's Church, but that's a really symbolic service to support the eradication of hate crime. I reaffirm to you that I am personally committed to ensuring that we get our approach and our response to hate crime right, and that we also accept, listen, learn and develop on the occasions when we get it wrong. As part of our ongoing commitment to our LGBT plus community, we recently held a multi-agency meeting in the force after those dreadful attacks in our city some weeks ago. We had key partners there, including the Michael Korser Foundation, and from now on we will ensure that the joined up approach towards the fight eradicates hate in all its facets. Whilst these recent incidents have been disturbing and should never have occurred, I was immensely proud to see how quickly our city responded. Not only how quickly the key agencies and groups came together to offer reassurance, but I was delighted, and as Chris has mentioned, delighted to see how quickly our LGBT community and allies came together so quickly to stand shoulder to shoulder and so harmoniously to show a united front that this behaviour will not be tolerated in our city. Our support to the LGBT plus community remains consistent, visible and unwavering, and we will ensure that we've got a presence within our city centre to deter those who are intent on causing harm. We will continue to work with our diverse communities, partners and allies to bring those offenders to justice, whilst also protecting victims and continuing to keep people safe. Michael's murder left such a legacy in our city, and we will continue to support events such as this Vigil, this Pride, support for his family, friends, communities and loved ones. We will never forget Michael.
Thank you very much, Serena. Just to echo that, I think everyone's here today, obviously in memory of Michael, but it's about us wanting to be free, to express ourselves, and that's exactly what we need to be able to do. I'd like to invite Steve Brotherham, Liverpool City Region Mayor, to the stage. Steve's always supported the Vigil, and importantly, to stand up against hate crime.
I'll try and compete against the seagulls anyway, and any extraneous noise, but my message is really clear. First of all, it's great to see so many familiar faces here. I'm sure that your continued support and solidarity for Michael and Marie is of real comfort over many years now, and I've just had a brief chat to them before coming up here. And in lots of ways, they said, the last 13 years has flown over. And in many ways, of course, it's really dragged. But in the intervening period, yes, there's been improvements. But as I said about pride is still a protest. Pride is still a protest about people who, for whatever reason, think that it's still okay to take actions into their own hands and meter out violence, and that's where Serena's message is really important to us all. It doesn't matter what the cause is, this has to be stamped out. We need the police and everybody else to be vigilant, and that's why Pride, still 13 years on, is a really important part of what the messaging is. I spoke at Virtual Pride and said that the special significance of those outrageous homophobic attacks that we've seen over the last few months really do put our city and city region into a very dim light, but it's not the true spirit of people from our area. It is a few people, it's a minority, but that minority certainly needs to be tackled. And you would have hoped that Michael's untimely death, and again, just speaking to Marie and Michael, might have been the last act of violence of its type. But unfortunately, bigotry still lives today. So the last 13 years have flown for me, not for Michael and Marie in many ways, which I'm sure it's been a long 13 years without Michael. 13 years without the joy that he brought to your lives, and 13 years denied the possibilities of what Michael may have achieved. And I do remember our conversations 13 years ago when you visited me when I was the Lord Mayor in the town hall, and I do know that you were saying that he will forever live in your hearts, and he does today, I know, as much as he did then. Over the last few months, we've seen that people shouldn't be afraid to be themselves, but certainly nobody should be endangered because they want to be themselves. So my message is that today, once again, we stand in solidarity as we did 13 years ago over Michael's death. Thank you to all of you for never giving up, for staying active, and for continuing your campaign against violence of any sort. And in the end, love will win out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. So now we have LCR Pride CEO, Andy Herring, so a wonderful friend of the foundation, and we're proud to have sponsored Pride Youth Zone most recently as well.
Good evening, everyone. I'm always reminded why not to have my script in my head, because the partners that go before us always managed to say everything that I had to say. We're delighted to be invited again to join you, but also to stand beside you as a partner, to remember Michael, and also to stand against hate. We are LCR Pride Foundation, and we're a city region-wide charity working to challenge hate, and the whole reason that we're here is because there is still hate crime. To have a city region where people can be themselves means they have to be able to walk down the street without fearing for being attacked or actually being attacked for who they are. We're reminded with the stuff in the press over the last 2 months that hate crime is still real, but also as an organisation working with many of you, we're also reminded that physical hate crime isn't the only hate crime that is still in our society. We know that there is verbal, and we know that online hate crime, particularly at the moment, has increased and is still just as big a threat. But we all also have a role to play in that, not just the people that are victims of it, but also as bystanders and people that's a witness to this horrific hate crimes that are going on. As we've already said, our theme this year is from now on, and deliberately that's done to be a campaigning theme, to set that line in the sand and say that this will not happen again. We said it 13 years ago, and we're still saying it. So whilst we're seeing this horrific news, it shouldn't deter us away from that message and the reason we're doing it in the first place. We as an organisation are committed to working in partnership and making sure that we can give our community a voice. We'll be that critical friend, and we will still work tirelessly to support people that are disengaged with us, with other organisations, to make sure that their voices are heard too. We'll still keep campaigning, even though we haven't had an event for the last 2 years, of course, and we haven't been able to march through the streets, but we still find creative ways, as we've already discussed, that the community from a grassroots level can come together and make a difference. So for us, that's our pledge, is from now on, is we'll continue working with all of you to make a difference, and hopefully you'll all join us again next year when we actually can come together and march even more kind of determinedly through the city centre. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. And so now we have Reverend Bill Addy. Do apologise, PCC Emily, do apologise. So it's my first time speaking, relatively new trustee at the foundation, so apologies. PCC Emily Spirell, is that how you pronounce your name? Do apologise. So previously deputy, but always a strong supporter of Pride and the Michael Korser Foundation.
Thank you very much. So, hi, good evening everyone. It really is a real honour to be with you all today commemorating the life of Michael. Michael's was a life that was cut short, tragically far too short, but to see all of you here today, 13 years after Michael's death, just demonstrates the impact he had on so many during his 18 years with us. I've attended this vigil for many years just as an observer, and it's always a very sobering reminder of the challenge that we still face in terms of tackling hate crime. But it's also a very uplifting experience to celebrate Michael and the work that has been done in his name. Michael clearly made a huge difference to everyone who knew and loved him. But his life has also had an impact on many more. The hundreds of members of our LGBT communities, young and old, for the support that they've received and for their quality of life. Through the work of the Michael Korser Foundation and Liverpool Pride, Michael has made a difference to our city and to our entire region. Through LCR Pride, our communities come together in protest, unity and solidarity. And while sadly Pride did have to be adapted again this year, it was good that we were still able to do it online, and I was really proud to support it along with many others here today. So I'm really looking forward to next year, hopefully, where the streets of Liverpool will be filled with the colour and joy of Pride again, with thousands turning out to march and thousands more lining the streets to show their support. Now, more than ever, LCR Pride is vital. You've already heard it from a couple of speakers today, but I think it's obviously worth saying again. The recent spate of homophobic attacks reminds us just how much the fight against intolerance, abuse and hatred in our society has not yet been won. And my fear is that sadly there were likely many more incidents that didn't get reported, but still left many victims feeling vulnerable within our city. It reminds us of the need for visibility of our emergency services, our support services, and our communities to help people report hate crime and ensure those who spread hatred and violence face justice. I was looking at the police Twitter on Saturday and saw that Merseyside Police had tweeted about being out and being visible and present in the community. And I also saw the numbers of people who were tweeting back to say that wasn't what they should be doing, or that they were spending too much time worried about being too inclusive of the LGBT community. Well, I would very much echo what the Chief Constable has said. It is absolutely right that Merseyside Police engages with the LGBT community. They're a visible presence in the community, and they actively tackle hate crime in all its forms. Merseyside Police has dedicated hate crime officers who are specially trained to handle cases of hate with sensitivity and understanding. And I would urge anyone who has been affected by hate crime to contact the police. You will be listened to, you will be understood, and you will get help. And I'm keen to do everything within my power to try and tackle hate crime in all its forms. I commission a number of specialist tailored support services for anyone who has been affected by LGBT hate crime. And I also commission a confidential 24/7 hate crime reporting service, completely independent from the police, for people who want to report but maybe don't feel comfortable going to the police yet. Stop Hate UK is available all over the phone, online, or through its free app. There are also more than 90 independent reporting centres across Merseyside, now identified by a red hand logo, where you can talk to staff in confidence and get help to report a hate crime. I'm also working with Pride to look at how we can unite with the bars and clubs in the city centre to create dedicated safe spaces where anyone targeted can seek help. I've also spoken with numerous members of the LGBT community who've reiterated how crucial visibility continues to be if we are to genuinely tackle and eradicate homophobia and transphobia. There is no place for hate in Merseyside. It will not be tolerated, and as you've already heard, the Chief Constable and I are determined to do everything we can to stamp it out. Our city is welcoming, it is tolerant, and it is inclusive. We must all continue to work as hard as we can to ensure this is the reality for every single person living, working and visiting on Merseyside. It is Michael's legacy and it must never be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we do have Reverend Biladi. So an amazing supporter of the Michael Korser Foundation. Hand over to you.
And I think can also introduce my colleague, Reverend Tabitha Rao, who's a new member of the staff at Liverpool Parish Church. Liverpool Parish Church, as you know, has been the parish church for this city for over 800 years. And this evening we want to show our support for the Michael Korser Foundation. I'm Reverend Biladi, as I was introduced. I'm one of the assistant priests at Liverpool Parish Church. But I just wanted to say a special word to Mike and Marie this evening and the family of Michael. I know some think of what it's like to lose a child. My own son died some 25 years ago, but that was from a natural heart issue. To lose a son because of hate is an horrendous thing, and I want to thank you for all that you have both done and your family for giving Michael to the city and for giving Michael in the way that you help this city support young people and young gay, lesbian and transgender people, and it's a very important work that you are doing. It's not one that you want to do, I know that. You would much rather be with Michael this evening somewhere perhaps, and with Michael's partner and seeing the life that he would bring. But thank you for all you do. And this evening I just wanted to say that from Liverpool Parish Church, we just wanted to make a pledge that we will do all that we can to call out that four-letter word hate wherever it is, because we want to replace that word hate with the word love, another four-letter word. Sadly, the church that I am a member of, the Church of England, sometimes gets some bad press. At this moment in time, we're not able to marry people within our own building of the same sex, but that's something that a large portion of our church, and you may have seen the work that our own Bishop Paul Bayes, is trying to correct. Some 750 years BC, the prophet Micah was a prophet in Israel, and he was a prophet and worked at a particularly difficult time for the state of Israel. But you may know that within the book of the prophet Micah in chapter 6, there are some simple words that we should all follow, and those words are those which says, what would our God want us to do? And those words say that our God would want us to walk, to love justice, love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Now, I represent a Christian church, but of course there are people of all faiths and no faiths. But all of you somewhere have your God. And if you then follow those words to think, to walk justly, and it's just that all people should be loved and able to love, that nobody should suffer hatred because of how they are, what their gender is, what their sexual orientation is, who they choose to love. And we as a society should ensure that that justice flows throughout this society and through our city. And you should also love mercy, and that mercy is what each of us could bring. Hate is a very easy thing to happen because hate seeps into us and flows from us, and so we should find ways of removing hate. And that hate can be whether it's just perhaps what we use social media in the way that we can use it so easily to spread hate. We should find ways of doing that. And then each of us should remember to walk humbly before our God. So thank you, Michael and Marie, for this evening. Thank you that we are able to come because of the work that you do with the foundation. And as I say, we pledge to do all that we can in the church here in Liverpool to remove hate from our streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. As I mentioned before, I'm a relatively new member of the trustees. The reason I got involved was quite simply when I heard about the story of Michael Korser, shocked, disgusted, many words come to my brain that I could probably use. The most prominent thought that I had was why? Why, as all of us have mentioned, why was someone attacked just because of something that he believed in, because of who he was, quite frankly. As we've already mentioned, LGBTQI hate crime is in the up at the minute across the LCR, which for one of the friendliest cities in the UK is interesting, we can all agree. We were all mentioning that apparently homophobia is not a thing, queerphobia is not a thing, transphobia is not a thing anymore. It really is, and that's exactly why we're all here today. Celebrating Michael's life, of course, but also stamping out hate crime. Yeah, it's disgusting, but we're hopefully going to make a change. Michael Korser Foundation, we've pledged with the rest of our community to educate, to support members of our community and allies alongside to bring education to help stamp out hate crime, really. I'd like to pass over to Connie Lush, Val, for a lovely rendition.
I've been sent to give you a little bit of pain and torture before you leave the area. This song is especially for Michael, okay? May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung. May he stay forever young. May he stay forever young. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much. And finally, I'd like to pass over to Gary Miller, Deputy, to close our ceremony for our vigil today. Thank you.
Don't worry, I'm not going to speak too long. Now, be nice. I did say to Stephen, it's very important that we thank people. And very often we kind of leave these events and we think, oh, we should have said this and we should have said that. So he's given me the job to do. So my apologies. Chris Porter from Gyro, thank you. To the Chief Constable, wonderful, and thank you for your pledges. And I know you really, really do get it, and so do your officers. And from your leadership down and across with partners, things hopefully will get better. Andy Herring, LCR Pride, thank you. Steve's Rotherham City Region Mayor, thank you so much for your words. I'm now competing with the Seagulls. Emily Spurrell, our new police crime commissioner. I almost forgot what you were called there for a minute. But Emily too, you've got the pledge on that side as well. And to Bill Addy and Tabitha, you could have spoken, they didn't let you speak. And maybe next year. Ryan Bailey-Weir for hosting tonight, thank you so much. Thank you to our trustees, including Andrea Edwards over here. Alan Greaves is somewhere. Oh, Alan, hello. Alan's in the cash gear tonight, again. Lecturer, professor in archaeology at the University of Liverpool, and he's wonderful. And also, we've got John Lowe, who's filming us at the moment. I'm deliberately mentioning those because very often we forget to mention the team that makes things happen. And Ryan is our newest trustee. Susan Harris, where are you? She's hiding here, another new trustee. Wonderful. Connie Lush, or Val, her real name, who's just sang for us, is another trustee. But we need more trustees. And we need more trustees within our demographic, within our age group that we're looking at. So if you know anybody between the age of probably 18, although our demographic is 16, but 18 up to 25, maybe Steve could help us perhaps, through the City Region of the Combined Authority, through the City Councils, not just Liverpool. We've got representatives here from the Wirral, from Sefton, from Knowsley, from St Helens here tonight. All the councillors that are here, thank you for being here. You have been wonderfully loyal in coming here year after year. I wish we didn't have to do this. I wish we didn't have to do this. To Jerry Proctor at the back with Stuart Fitzgerald. Stuart was interim CEO. Jerry was chair at the beginning with Paula Mann, working with Paula Mann as well. I see I'm going to forget somebody. Anne O'Byrne, former deputy mayor. Oh, who? Oh, this one here. To my husband of 40 years, Steve McFarlane, who is the chair of the Michael Korser Foundation. We've not been married for 40 years, just feels like it. But we've been together for a long time, and I love him greatly. Steve has done a lot of work, all the trustees have done a lot of work. John Lowe, he's standing up on the steel bench there. He's actually got daisies. I'd like to thank you in advance to go and plant some daisies where you can, to show your love for Michael Korser, who died on this day 13 years ago through a hate crime. Please, with your love, your hugs, your compassion and your care, you help everybody, no matter their background, no matter their sexuality, or their gender, their colour, their faith, or non-faith. We're all the same. Let's love each other. And my final thanks goes, I hope this is his final one. I'm sorry if I've forgotten anybody. My final one goes to Michael's family, but in particular to Maria and to Mike, for allowing us to represent the memory of your wonderful son every year and putting your trust and faith in us, because it's your legacy, it's why we're here, it's Michael's legacy. We can make a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've got any money, it is charities like Gyro and charities like the Michael Korser Foundation that need your help. Please try and donate. This year, the Michael Korser Foundation, with your help, with the likes of former Lord Mayors, many Lord Mayors, from the likes of the bars, including the Lisbon and Kitties and so on, they've raised lots of money. And do you know what we have done? And I am a patron, I'm only one of the patrons of this wonderful charity. Through you, we have purchased a caravan this year. So should any young LGBT, young man, woman, etc., feel at risk, wants respite, wants to go somewhere safe, approach the Michael Korser Foundation, because we'll put you up for a week, a weekend, and such. But we can do more than that. More education, more motivation, and more accommodation. Ladies and gentlemen, final thanks actually is to all of you. It's great to see our friends here year after year. And please be safe, look after your health, and look after those you love. Thank you so much. And we're now finished.